Hello everybody, it's Fight Club Hobbs. Welcome to another wonderful episode of GVN Live. And with me is Jamilian, Mark B. Writing, and it's Nick. Again.
I'm back. Brought me back.
Yes, we brought you back.
Keith's out, so I subbed back in.
Yeah, Keith has something important he had to take care of and will maybe rejoin us in the future. So, how's everybody been since the last show? Let's start with you, Nick.
Everything's fine. Baseballs are getting hit really, really hard behind me right now, so yeah, that home run derby day.
How about you, Emily?
I've been good. I actually don't think I was on the last show because I had
So it's been about a month.
Yeah, well, I had a ton of work. I was on so many deadlines. It was insane, and I kept having to work overtime and get up early, and I was exhausted, and I was just like, I can't do this. So, but I've been good. Playing a lot of Tekken 7. Speaking of which, in the beginning of the show, I will be competing in an online Tekken 7 Invitational, so I will be back and forth. My mic will be muted when I play my matches because it's literally right in front of me, and my stick is right here, so I'm totally going to make this work
She's
tonight.
Gonna be pushing some buttons.
I've also been very addicted to this stupid game on my pad and my phone. It's like a chef game. It's like a cooking game. It's so dumb.
Cooking Mama?
No, it's not cooking. It's what is it? Oh, and I also got the new Crash Bandicoot. I've been playing that. Cooking Fever, and it's called Cooking Fever. And no, I got Crash Bandicoot and Tekken 7 is what I've been playing the most, and Cooking Fever, which is dumb, but it's fun.
And how are you doing? Oh, sorry. And how are you doing,
Mark?
No,
I was just gonna say that's it.
My dick didn't fall off, so I guess I'm all right.
There you go. Hey.
That's enlightening. Thank you.
That is the bar that we need to clear at this point. That is how low.
That's the most important thing we had to know tonight was about Mark's dick. So
That's right. So next show, Mark, I'm gonna do a progress report. I'm gonna follow up and see if your dick hasn't fallen off again.
Okay,
we're gonna make this into like the DNN, the Dick News Network.
So can you guys just talk about that privately on your own time?
We're gonna do like the Dick News Network. It'll be like recovery is up to 34% and progressing.
Just so you guys know, I mean, you guys can do your own special Dick News Network, but you should know I don't have one because I'm like the only female here. So.
What do you got? Penis envy then?
No, I'm good. I don't need a dick to be cool. You might, Rob, but I'm good.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Now?
I can't help it. I'm kind of like attached to it.
This is what happens when the female goes back on the show.
There are so many things I could say right now, and I'm just gonna behave myself.
No. We encourage bad behavior, Mark. Go at it.
Moving on.
Wow, he really doesn't want to go in.
Nick looks so confused.
Let's just be honest here. Whose feelings do you think we're gonna get hurt?
I don't feel like anybody's feelings are gonna get hurt. I just feel like it would be inappropriate and rude.
Okay. All right.
Are you worried about being inappropriate and rude, Mark?
Listen, I have standards.
That's just funny. I'm sorry.
Hey.
You're like,
Mark every now and then has to uphold his standards.
The whole reason we're talking about this right now is because you talked about your dick falling off. So I'm just saying.
I have standards.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna kill me in the within the first 5 minutes of the show.
So we're going to talk about video games now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from
that's what we're here for.
Moving on from phallic dismemberment, Nick, what have you?
Nobody's saying it got cut off. I'm just saying it's still there.
Oh my God!
Fallen off.
So anyway, video games.
Nick, what have you been playing? Hi, Crystal. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, you know what? I have an idea. So one of our shows before we end the year will be phallic imagery in video games. That way, we're talking about video games, and it'll please Mark.
Listen, I'm just going to spend 20 minutes complaining about how we can't see Turian dicks in Mass Effect.
And you can do that when we have the show talking about phallic images in video games. Nick has
This,
nothing
this
to
episode
say.
of this episode of GVN Live sponsored by Bad Dragon.
Oh my god.
Nick, what have you been playing?
By the time
Nick,
the
what have you
show
been playing?
starts, they'll invite
What have you
me
been playing,
to my
Nick?
match.
What have you been playing?
Nick,
So,
let's move on. Come on. What have you been playing?
New Game Plus, Persona 5, more time in the show. Tekken 7, I cleared all the single-player stuff in that. I will probably not go online because I'm just bad at the game. And the Crash Insane trilogy, I beat 1, starting to work on 2 now. Probably won't beat it as quick as I would like to, but yeah, there's some stuff different about the game physics-wise that makes it harder in some respects and others easier. There's definitely a little bit of a different feel to it, but overall, very good job was done on it, at least I thought.
Okay, I think I'm going to go out of turn and talk about what I want to play. I've been playing a little bit of a couple of games on the Switch. I got this one that I just downloaded called, I think it's Implosion.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I got my Switch too.
Yay! But I've been playing this weird game. It
Switch
came
is
off
the
the cell
best.
phones. I forget, and iPads. I would look on the system, but I forgot the name of them. But it's decent. It's just it's a futuristic Diablo hacking slash game. Another game I've been playing, which will give Senran Kagura a run for its money, is Valkyrie Drive. I downloaded
It's literally
that.
the same company.
It is, literally. So, like, we have now 2 candidates this year for, I feel dirty playing that category, for our end-of-year GVN awards.
Not unless I buy NHL 18.
What's that?
Not unless I buy NHL 18.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that EA game might actually win one year.
Yeah, that game sucks. It's not even out yet, and it sucks.
Fair enough.
Yep. Okay, and Emily, what have you been playing besides Tekken right now?
Tekken 7, Cooking Fever, like I said, that's stupid phone app. But I got it like on my like new Kindle Fire, so I've been like playing it on there a lot. And Crash Bandicoot, because I got that recently. So I've been playing the new Crash Bandicoot N trilogy, which is awesome if you're a Crash fan, but if you're not a Crash fan, you might not like it. But I personally am being brought back to my younger days when I used to play Crash Bandicoot all the time. Which is really, I don't know why that's so funny to you.
No, I'm just reading the comments
Oh, there are comments?
in the chat. Well, one particularly
I
by
know.
Mark, and I was just shocked too.
It's fine.
Shocked
Just go. Just go.
Let's keep going. Keep going.
Um,
Continue. Don't break the cycle.
I'm so okay. Oh my god. Well, that's mostly what I've been playing since the last show. I've also played some ARMS on my Switch.
All right.
ARMS and a little bit of Zelda.
All right. And how about you, Mark, to round this introduction?
I've been playing Fate Grand Order and Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. Fate Grand Order is a mobile phone game based in the Fate universe, which I like the Fate universe perfectly fine. Not necessarily everyone is going to, for many obvious reasons. The particular mobile phone game in question is kind of scummy with how it handles its particular gacha stuff, i.e., like, you know, how you redeem purchasable in-game currency to, you know, to get content, characters, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I like the mechanics of it fine-ish, but, you know, beyond that, it's just kind of there. I like the characters, I like, you know, the world that it's based in, but as a game, it's kind of hit or miss. Stormblood, I have many opinions on mechanically, but in the interest of time, I will say it's mostly good. They ramp up the challenge a bit in a couple of sections that I think could make it a little bit concerning for newcomers. But by and large, I feel like it is a pretty damn good expansion, and you know, I recommend Final Fantasy XIV to basically anybody.
That's good. Out of all the MMOs, how many hours have you logged into Final Fantasy XIV as a whole compared to, let's say, like 11 or anything else you've played?
14, I want to say probably maybe like a month's worth of time at this point. Like probably like 2 to 3 weeks if I had to venture a guess total of time that I've actually played. Final Fantasy 14, I want to say, or 11, I want to say my cap was like 4 months. of total time nonstop. World of Warcraft, I think maybe like a week's worth of time at most. Others, I can't even think of like an amount of time necessarily.
Okay, so that's a good roundup for games that we've been playing. Let's move on to our first topic at hand. And Mark, I would like to let you introduce this piece that we're going to talk about for a brief second.
Oh, are we starting with this? All right.
Well,
So the Twitter sphere has been abuzz with various conversations that have been brought up by a video that has been released by a video creator, essentially known as Donkey for all intents and purposes. His aesthetic is that he is a talking donkey, hence the name. He released a video in the past couple of days that more or less amounted to him kind of taking game reviews to task, talking about how large conglomerated websites like a Polygon or an IGN or a Destructoid kind of have a very lost voice due to the amount of people that they have covering content, and that the voice can potentially get lost due to how many people are there, that video game reviewers are not really using the 7 out of 10 scoring metric, that, you know, stuff is kind of all over the place, that reviewers are not necessarily putting as much effort into the content as they should be, etc., etc., etc. And this has encouraged a lot of discussion amongst reviewers of various types, kind of ranging from the "I don't give a fuck what this guy thinks" sort of response cue to thoughtful dissertations on opinions related to what it was he said and the way in which he chose to say it.
One of the things I do have to agree with what he was saying, and this was kind of like when he was taking his jab at IGN, was when he was talking about how they have like 37-something reviewers, and you don't exactly know what you're going to get. Like, you watch their videos, and I've seen this a lot, like they do, he does a prime example of showing videos where they're constantly bashing on Sonic the Hedgehog in all these videos, but then you look at the review scores and they're saying, oh, this is a good Sonic game, oh, here's a good Sonic game, here's a good Sonic game, and then they're going back to the other videos like, has there ever been a good Sonic game? Sonic's never been good, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's actually an excellent point right there. There's nothing but contradiction going on with some of these major sites now. It's like they just can't seem to be on a same page, or they just can't seem to realize that they're sending mixed messages in regards to what they're doing with their review platform. Any other opinions on this?
How many 10s did Skyward Sword get at launch, and now people just absolutely hate that game? Not absolutely hate. I still like it personally, but
I personally like it.
There's a lot more hate for that game now than there definitely was at launch.
I haven't really noticed any hate or blowback from the game recently, but
no, I'm saying, like, you know, a couple years out, when people kind of really got time to digest it and realize maybe the motion controls weren't perfect for it.
Okay, guys, so I just got a message that an invite was sent to me. So I want to actually, well, they claim they sent an invite to me, but I don't have any invites. Okay. I was gonna say I actually have an opinion on this and I want to give it, but I might have to go play a match and then come back.
Okay,
hope you win.
Let's start with you, Mark. Well, did you want to give your opinion real quick, or?
Well, actually, yes. Because she said sending invites now to Trina and Emily, but I don't have an invite. So until I get one.
Good luck again. I know who Trina is.
So you know who LCA Hurricane is?
Maybe. I know a lot of Tekken players. Remember, my tournament started off as 3D fighters only.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I know she plays Asuka. She was very competitive. She was like,
she's to be part of, or she is still part of the BMS clan.
2 days ago.
Listen, I respect anybody who has an Asuka main.
So,
oh my god. Anyway, so
Asuka's a good character. She's one of my mains. This isn't a sex thing. Not everything is a sex thing.
I just received my invitation because you guys were stalling. So I will give my opinion when I get back.
All right. So, Mark, give us your opinion. What do you think about my thought right there about how everyone just seems to be contradicting each other in terms of like major gaming websites in their reviews?
Sure, but like, here's my thing. You don't go to Destructoid or IGN for one big unified opinion.
Nope.
Donkey makes a point in the video, and he's 100% correct, that IGN has hired like 30 some odd people to write reviews in the past year. The thing that he's not getting, or that he is getting, and he's like, trying to indicate that he wishes to correct, is honestly that that's not what IGN's for. IGN is a content farm. Okay? IGN, Kotaku, and Destructoid and GameSpot are content farms. They exist to push out as much content as quickly as possible because, like, that's what they're there for. They are there to provide an opinion of a thing that exists to give whatever amount of people check in routinely an idea of a score. And in general, in theory, how that's supposed to work is you canvass the staff and you find somebody who is a fan of that particular type of thing, and you have them cover it. Does it always work out that way? No, absolutely not. There have been years of Dynasty Warriors games that were reviewed by people who clearly did not like the Dynasty Warriors franchise, and it took Monster Hunter like 4 games before they finally found reviewers who were like, yes, this is a thing that I enjoyed doing. But in theory, the idea is that you're going to hire 30, 40 people, and everybody's going to have, like, somebody's going to have an interest in doing something that you have to cover. And if you note, like, a lot of his major complaints come down to GameSpot and IGN, the 2 largest content providers, because they are appealing to the masses. They are appealing to the people who just want to know a number and move on with their day. Like, there wasn't, like, in general, he put up graphics about, like, just saying everybody sucks. But listen, like, I didn't see him slagging Polygon actually as a thing anywhere in that article. And that doesn't mean that Polygon is amazing or anything, let's be clear. But if you're slagging IGN and GameSpot, like, that's not the same thing as shitting on The Verge and Polygon, because they are not even remotely close to doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Emily is currently going ham right now on Tekken 7. If you could see right there, she's totally focused. So, Nick, how about your opinions on the matter?
Yeah, so you sent it to me before we got started here. I mean, I don't feel like he said anything that anyone who's really paid attention to the game industry hasn't thought of at that point.
He 100% has not. I made this comment on Twitter, but there is not a single take in that fucking video that isn't Arctic as fuck.
Yeah, so...
Like, did you see that part in the video where he put up the little image for, like, God Hand and, like, the Party Babies thing?
Yeah.
It's like a 3-second, like a 10-second clip of, like, this one image with God Hand in it, where it's doing the IGN comparison between how they gave Party Babies, or like Wii Party Babies, or whatever the fuck the name of the game is, like a 7.5, and they gave God Hand a 3. And, like, he put that up like it was some kind of, revelatory topic. That has been a meme for like a decade at this point. That's not even a joke.
Yeah, I was trying to think about how long ago those games came out, but yeah, it's just that was the thing that kind of shocked me, because Hub sent it to me and said this is apparently causing a stir, and I just went, well, why? Because there's nothing really new here. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
like I said, everyone's had that thought at one point or another.
The only reason why it's probably causing a stir now is the Gamersgate bullcrap from a couple years ago.
No, I wouldn't. I have definitely seen people draw the comparison about how Donkey managed to accomplish in one video what Gamergate couldn't do in 2 years, which is get people actually talking about that and having a dialogue. Here's the thing. Donkey got like 2.5 million views on that video. Mm-hmm. Jim Sterling is probably one of the largest voices that we have in content creators who are within, like, the reviewer sphere as such. He gets like 300,000 views.
300. But then again, it's also that exposure. He hit a topic that obviously was going to get a big draw from him, and Jim Sterling is probably not going to get as big a stir. They're just going to be like, oh, this asshole's just shooting stuff out his ass again.
The problem is Sterling is preaching to the choir.
Pretty much.
Sterling and people in his position, even Yahtzee, is not drawing huge numbers. People within our sphere of influence, within our range of communication, are aware of people like that. Donkey is not the biggest. He's not Pewds, okay?
No.
But this is ostensibly the equivalent of if Pewds had been able to get together a cogent thought for 30 seconds and put that to paper. That's kind of where this is at this point. Like, this is a person who has actual mainstream, or as close to mainstream as we're going to get, exposure on YouTube, who has multiple millions of followers, who, you know, is saying this sort of thing, and it's getting actual play right now because this is a person with a large voice. It's not because these topics are in any way new or interesting or haven't been beaten into the fucking dirt at this point. Let me be clear. If this is what it took to get people actually having a conversation about this, good. I'm glad somebody did and that we're actually having a conversation about this, and maybe it will do something. But let's be clear, almost every conversation he's having, we have been having for over a decade at this point. Mm-hmm. The only reason it matters now is because somebody with an actual presence said it.
Now, could this in return be a double-edged sword? I mean, granted, yes, you said somebody finally got people talking about it in the right way. Could this lead to more chaos eventually down the road?
This is not going to become something that creates like a big deal, I don't think. The core problem is, and I really don't want to get into this conversation on the whole, but the core problem is Gamergate changed the way that we have dialogue in general, period. 2.5 years ago, dialogue on the internet, dialogue on social media was a completely different animal from what it is now. Everything is kind of us versus them, and multiple different people have picked multiple different sides. Like, that's what conversation has become at this point. Like, we're talking about a situation where VidCon was a few weeks ago, and a couple of content creators that I follow, including Lindsay Ellis, Harrison Bomberguy, Dan Olson, met with Armored Skeptic, a guy who is on kind of the theologically opposite side from them, and the internet shit its fucking pants. This is not going to change anything because, and I made this point too, the same people who 2.5 years ago were talking shit are talking shit now. And guess what? Their opinions didn't change dick. It's not going to change anything. The people who are having thoughtful, insightful commentary on the situation are the same people who were having thoughtful, insightful commentary 2 years ago. The same people who are talking shit 2 years ago are talking shit now. This is not going to change anything. All it's going to do is be another thing that just kind of reinforces the same fucking echo chambers that we've been existing with for years. That said, if the journalists collectively can kind of take this as something akin to reasonable criticism, and let's be clear, not all of them are, but if they can, even some of them, not necessarily the majority, but some of them, we might actually start seeing some significant change. Do I think it's going to be a big deal? Do I think it's going to cause any sort of explosions? No, because the internet has been fucked for 2 years. But I do think that maybe it will get some people actually talking, and the right people might start making the right decisions about how to deal with certain things.
That's good. And what are your thoughts on the matter, Nick?
Well, I kind of tried looking up what the reaction to it was, at least on Twitter, and he definitely caught IGN and GameSpot's attention. There are more than a few people that work for each site that have responded to it, but yeah, I mean,
well, could you read off some of the reactions if you're able to?
If you really want to. Okay, so Dan Stapleton said some of these responses I don't understand, but Dan Stapleton and IGN, how come every YouTuber doesn't agree on how good games are? All their reviews appear on the same site. Where's the consistency? I mean,
oh, so he was pretty much just taking what the guy was saying about IGN and then just throwing it back in his face.
YouTube doesn't exactly work the same way, but yeah, it's just other reviewers just with mixed opinions. Some are upset, others are like, oh, why should I care? But yeah, I'm not sure it'd be the smartest idea for me to just read off a bunch of tweets, but
I mean, there's a few. Like a lot of the people, Dan Stapleton said, yeah, how come every YouTuber doesn't agree with how good games are?
But
All their
that's a
reviews appear
social
on the
media.
same site. Where's the consistency?
That's a
You know?
social media platform. Anyone can just get on there and do something. IGN has to. Well, IGN does
IGN
have,
is professional.
I mean, you can make an account on IGN and write your own blog posts and stuff like that, but I don't. I'm not sure if that counts.
I feel like the actual professionals that exist there should be like the main ones. Like if you look at like the image that Donkey himself has posted of the various reactions, and to be clear, Donkey's own response was, "There are writers out there who love video games trying to do good work, but I've seen about 2 thoughtful responses and 15 limp dick tweets." Which
Yeah, I got
fair.
this one here too.
Like the image that he posted is kind of a lot of stuff where it's like, like Tariq Musa said, "What is a donkey?" Which was my initial response. What the fuck is this guy? A lot of people said, "Why should I care? What's this all about?" People pointed out that like the video is disconnected. That it's like one person, Chloe, I don't know what site she writes for, wrote, "I ultimately don't care about Donkey thinking poorly of game sites because I'm used to it, but it's nice to find out he fucking hates us too, especially because I've had fun watching his channel at work and people he specifically calls fucking idiots in the video, but oh well. No, the thing I'm most mad about is shaming freelancers. They don't deserve to get dragged. They have no role in forming editorial policy. Seeing your full name in a video by someone with 3 million subs is scary if you're trying to start your career, and I hope they don't get bullied." Which,
yeah, that
is a good
100% is a correct fucking point.
Yeah, that was the thing I wanted to bring up too, because IGN does go to a lot of freelancers, don't they?
Yeah, in fact, we had Brian Dawson, who freelances for IGN every now and then, who was on the show back in September.
Yeah,
So-
and that's I did want to clarify what you meant by hiring, because like, do you bring freelancers under that same umbrella too, or like if you meant hiring is they go to that office and work there?
Well, the thing about freelancers too is if they go to the office, they're definitely going to also be, not just trying to develop their own style, but they're also going to be, taking cues from other people's styles and stuff like that. That'll rub off on them, and who knows, even maybe their way of how they view or form an opinion might actually be influenced. Let's say like you go to IGN, you're young, you're a freelance, you might actually end up almost getting to the point where you'll start thinking and writing like the rest of the staff. But maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I'm not sure. Mark,
sorry, if I could bring up one more thing, and I hate to keep going to IGN on this because GameSpot and other sites were mentioned in there too, but I guess IGN's the one I kind of know the most about, at least. Hasn't their review policy changed like multiple times over the past few years?
Yeah, them and GameStop, especially after GameStop was, GameSpot was brought into was under fire a lot for a lot of their review games for advertising thing. Got real big a few years ago with the Company of Two, or no, what was it?
Kane and Lynch.
You're talking about the Kane and Lynch thing where Gersman got fired, which
yeah,
I really don't want to get into that.
We're not
right now.
That was almost that was 10 years ago now.
Was it 10 years ago? Wow.
The whole Kane and Lynch thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway,
remember when the 360 was brand new?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this will take like a minute, but probably the most thoughtful commentary on it came from Phil Kolar over at Polygon, and I kind of want to hit the points that he made here. First, not liking how game outlets have decentralized review opinions. I get where he's coming from on this, but it's also really hard to avoid. Even if a site only had 1 to 3 video game reviewers who only reviewed video games, those 1 to 3 reviewers would only be able to address a tiny percentage of the games released each year. Maybe 40 to 50 if we're talking on the high end. And this is like a game every 2 weeks, pretty much. Because like the point that he makes about like where he has the Jay-Z clip where, people listen to an album for a day and then immediately review it, like you can't do that. Yeah, like you can't really do that effectively with a game. Like it just doesn't work that way. If you play through a game, even if you can beat it in like a day, 2 days, you need time to ruminate on that. You need time to experiment with the experience. You need time to come up with a cogent thought process around the game that you played. You can't just write down your first thoughts because they're going to be bad. Further to the point, obviously not every site needs to review every game, and most don't bother to try these days. That's good. More focus is good. But there's a lot of pressure from readers to review a wider spread. We, being Polygon in this case, still get emails regularly asking when the review is hitting for semi-major games that we miss. And this is a major issue with the idea of a gaming publication having only one or two reviewers, which he quotes somebody who said, "It's weird how deeply ingrained, like movies, but for games, biases are when the reality of video games are impossible." It's possible for a newspaper, for example, to devote 1 to 2 people to movie reviews and have them hit the majority of big releases, which comes back to the music thing. But games are so much longer and require a wider spread of expertise in genres and such. It's just not possible to run things that way. That said, I think Donkey is right about the benefit this gives to YouTube creators, and it's one of the reasons they've become super popular. I think one of the biggest challenges gaming sites have is figuring out ways to bring forward the personality of their writers. Sometimes that's through video. Donkey uses multiple clips from video reviews with the voice of the authors that I think are attempting that. Another solution is the little bio boxes in the review. Sites like GameSpot use these, and Donkey showcases one of them in his video. He's talking about the point in the Donkey video where the guy made a mention of how far into Crash Bandicoot that he played.
Yep.
It's a bummer that Donkey uses both of these things for laughs when their attempts, however successful, to deal with what he's talking about. Again, though, this is a challenge people at sites with a large staff need to be thinking about and confronting more. I'm going to be thinking on it a lot. Then he slags on Sonic. Donkey mentions when you see a video from a specific YouTube creator, you know exactly whose point of view it's coming from, but that's actually only true once you followed that YouTuber long enough to know their point of view. The same can be said of individual writers. One thing Donkey mentions is the importance of acknowledging shortcomings as a reviewer, and I agree super hard on this. This ties into making editorial choices about who reviews what games. It's useless to assign a JRPG to someone who hates turn-based games and anime tropes. That's a bad idea. Also why I generally don't review Sonic games, which he slags on Sonic games. Again, thumbs up on Donkey saying a critic's power lies in the consistency of their voice. This is true, and something more critics should keep in mind. Bummer that he immediately turns it around into, but these specific reviews I disagree with are wrong. Total opinion, I hate the Armand White sidebar bit in the video, though I too find Armand White completely baffling and fascinating, which, if you didn't watch the video, that part is pretty fucking hilarious. So the biggest good point Donkey makes is so many of these reviews read exactly the same. I understand the desire by critics to get defensive, but he is right. And there's a whole thread. If you go over to Phil Kolar's Twitter account, twitter.com/pkolar, it's really lengthy. I can't even begin to do it justice, but it's an incredibly good take. Him shitting on Sonic the Hedgehog games aside, yes, I know it was a joke, Phil, I love you, but this is probably one of the 2 good points Donkey mentions here, because it's really well fucking thought out, and it's really fucking in depth from a person who has seen more of the industry than any of us.
All right, and hey, it looks like Emily has joined us. What's up, Emily?
Hey.
And we saw that you had a very, very bitter match.
I was more just pissed at the end because I was literally this close. So I won. So it was 2 out of 3. So I won the first one. She won the second one. And then it was one of those things where we're in the third one. And it was literally 2-2. So whoever won the next round won that. And it was both of us had little silver. And of course, I lost. So it pissed me off. I was so pissed because I was this close. But now I'm in losers. But I was this close. This freaking close, and I just made poor mistake. Okay. I made poor decisions because I got nervous about being so close that I started making bad mistakes. So it's my fault.
Okay. Did the cool slow-mo thing at least happen at the end?
No, I just made a mistake. I started making these bad decisions where I started hitting my rage art when I wasn't trying to hit my rage art. So I hit my rage art at a time when I was not trying to hit my rage art, and it was the wrong time because she blocked it and then punished me. So I was pissed about it.
Okay, did you want to go ahead and share your opinion?
Yeah, so I wasn't distracted. I actually turned the chat down, so I didn't hear you guys. So I just want to, can you give me a quick update where you guys were at?
Mark was just quoting something from Polygon in regards to their response to this Donkey's video, which was very positive in regard. Any other cliff notes, guys?
No, I feel like I hit the high points. Like I said, it goes on for like another 20, 25 tweets. There's just too much to really even do justice. I seriously recommend going over to his Twitter account and reading it yourself.
Okay. So anything you want to share about this in regards before we move on?
So basically, I more had a good example of okay. So if I'm not mistaken, before I go into this, I didn't watch a YouTube video, but the whole point of it was obviously about how game reviews aren't the way game reviews used to be in the past, right? Like, there's just so many people trying to do game reviews and so many people working for these companies at this point that aren't even using
the major high points of the video in question were that so many different video game websites have largely decentralized the content that they've created to the point where you've got 30 or 40 reviewers working for the majority of sites at this point, consistently reviewing stuff. It's hard to get an understanding of a particular voice. So you'll get a situation where a reviewer will make an 8 or a 9 out of 10 review for a video game, and then people will go on a podcast from that same site and talk about how that game and that franchise suck. In general, reviews all kind of sound the same in a lot of cases. It's a lot of talking about how all the same things get the constant same scores. 7.5 is 7 or 7.5 is the 5 as it is now, so on and so forth.
Right. So my issue is, and I wanted to use actually, and some of you might have heard this example already, because I made a status update about it. But I wanted to use the whole Crash Bandicoot vs Dark Souls thing as an example for what I'm going to talk about. So my biggest issue recently with gaming journalism and gaming reviews are reviewers that are hired to write for these big companies, but they're not taking the time, they don't know the actual gaming history of the game itself. So when you go to review a game that has been remastered, instead of doing what they should have done as a video game reviewer and playing the original before they played the remaster version so that they could do a great comparison of the two games and what's changed, what hasn't, was it a good remaster, was it not a good remaster, they're just playing the remastered versions. And a good example of this is trying to compare the Crash Bandicoot remaster to Dark Souls. I saw several articles on this, and it actually really irritated me because Dark Souls and Crash Bandicoot are two completely different games. It's not like Crash Bandicoot just came out of the blue and it's a whole new trilogy. This game has been around since I was a kid.
I thought Dr. Cortex was pretty insane when I was fighting him in Dark Souls 3, right, Mark?
I didn't play Crash Bandicoot. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, you
cannot
play along, can you?
Okay, here's the thing, though. Even if Mark didn't play Crash Bandicoot, if Mark was writing a video game review on a remastered game, or I was writing a video review on a remastered game, I would play the original first before I played the remaster so that I could actually write a proper review on a remastered game. However, I know that I'm fairly confident that these journalists did not do that, because had they done that, they would have realized that it, minus a few changes and obviously visually looking very graphically beautiful and a few glitches and things like that they took out, so far in my experience it plays the same. Crash was never a quote-unquote easy game. It just wasn't. It wasn't the most hard and difficult in the world, but it was never a easy game. There are many times that you would die and, you get lives.
Well,
and
there were times in the
to
first game you can obviously tell there were some shortfalls. Like, there definitely was in the first game a depth of field issue that I had. The depth perception issue.
They fixed some of that stuff. But the thing is, they did change some stuff, with the bosses. So instead of having to jump on their head 3 times, it's now 6 times. So they did make some stuff a little more challenging and difficult. But for the most part, it legit feels like Crash Bandicoot. They even went as far as to keep the load save screens almost exactly alike. The only difference is you don't need to use a memory card like you had to use before for it. So my issue is, I might actually have to agree a little bit that some of the game reviews out there are not full-fledged game reviews anymore. There's so many people trying to get involved in the gaming journalism community right now because of how popular video games are becoming, that at a point it's actually kind of starting to ruin the good quality reviews that we used to get on a more constant basis. Instead, now we have game reviewers comparing remastered versions of older classic games to Dark Souls, any Dark Souls for that matter. And literally the one article I read was a whole complaint about how hard Crash was, and now the new Crash remastered is Dark Souls. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. But I don't know how many of you have played Crash or got the remastered version, or whether or not you would actually agree with me on that opinion. But I just wanted to use a good recent example of why I feel it's suffering. I think there's too much influx. I think that because it's so popular right now, that everybody wants to be a part of it, but nobody wants to do it the right way, the way it should actually be done if you're going to write a game review. And in turn, I think that also affects games as well.
We're getting a little off topic.
On one hand,
how though?
I mean, what you're saying is definitely right.
I think her point is good.
Oh, her point is definitely
I think her point is
good.
legitimately good, and I think it actually does adhere to the topic. Like,
yes, okay.
The point and concept here is ostensibly people are kind of approaching this stuff from the wrong direction in terms of reviews. I'm kind of two minds about the thing that you're talking about here in particular. On one hand, I get that game review is going to be somewhere where people may not necessarily be able to be exposed to the original games, or may simply not have been exposed to them in any capacity at a previous point in time. Like, I generally do not expect people to have the kind of exposure that we necessarily do to everything just because, like, I'm old. You know, I've put my time in. Like, I've played the first Crash Bandicoot to a certain extent, enough that I was able to make the decision, this is not for me. I don't want to keep playing it at this point. Like, I'm not interested.
I'm sorry. I hate to do this, but the person I'm playing in my losers match, she wants to go to bed, so I have to play my match against her now.
All right.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Which sucks because I was like full-fledged against this right now. So,
okay. I think we're about ready to wrap up this topic anyway. But go ahead and see if you guys.
Well,
can
that was my point. I held that thought in there for like the whole time. I'm sorry. This is not going to be a frequent thing. It just.
That's
I
fine.
guess I didn't think that through, but okay.
But to finish up my point before we move on.
Yeah.
I don't expect.
I'll listen to it while I'm waiting.
Okay. On one hand, I don't feel as though gamers necessarily do need to approach the topic with that kind of knowledge in mind per se. It's fine to have researched the topic, which is a thing that I will frequently do. But I do feel that there's a point where it can be difficult on a gamer. Like, if you're 20 years old, you've just come out of college, you went to school for journalism or whatever, and you just got in on an internship with IGN, and it's review Crash Bandicoot, you may very well not have the time or the money to invest in playing the original game. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing per se. Like, I do appreciate the idea of people who did play the originals making observations about the original games, but there are going to be players coming in who are looking at this remastered Crash Bandicoot who are going to be like, I never played a Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, but
what am I going to think of this?
Real quickly before I go into this, because I'm like literally about to go into this. The thing about it though is then your reviews suffer, because when you write nothing about a game but it's really difficult, just like Dark Souls, and that's it, then
that's
how are you reviewing the game?
Like, that is absolutely the other. That was absolutely the other side I was getting to.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. My thing is, I do feel like there is a place for neophyte reviewers to come in and review a game like Crash Bandicoot or whatever, the remake of Resident Evil, any remake really, and not know anything about the subject matter necessarily, but have an opinion. Like, I don't expect everybody to have gone back and played the first Halo to review the most recent Halo. I don't expect everybody to have played the first Resident Evil to review, the most recent Resident Evil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like, from that perspective, there is value in having somebody who's never played a Crash Bandicoot attempt to review a Crash Bandicoot. And from that perspective, I do kind of feel like Donkey's ire is a little misguided. Partially. Let's be clear. Because I do genuinely feel like there is value in having neophyte players play these games and offer opinions to neophyte players who have never played these games. That said, the idea of comparing every hard thing that exists to fucking Dark Souls needed to die in a fire 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a little overplayed now.
If you describe anything as Dark Souls, unless it's actually fucking Dark Souls, I immediately am judging you.
That would be like in this day and age if we compare all the latest fighting games to something like Weapons Lord because it was the hardest fighting game ever made, or whatever. For back
I have no idea what Hubs just said.
It's a game that came out on the Genesis era.
That explains it.
It wasn't very good.
It wasn't very good. Well, actually, the Genesis version was better because 6 buttons laid out again.
Did that make it a good game or?
No.
Okay,
it's a decent game. I haven't played it extensively, but yeah, I didn't. Anyway, moving on. Did you want to get some final thoughts in, Nick, before we move on to the next topic at hand?
Honestly, I think the whole Dark Souls comparison to Crash Bandicoot thing is hilarious. Have you seen some of the stuff people have done with that?
Oh yeah, the memes and the photos and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just taking the Dark Souls covers and putting Crash Bandicoot over it. That stuff's hilarious to me. But it was a dumb thing to say, but whatever. I'm glad that the aftermath of it happened.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now to our next topic. We were originally going to talk about the Castlevania anime, but it turns out only half of the people here have actually watched it. So we wanted to be able. Yes?
I got shit to do. Don't shame me.
I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying we'll save it for a later time when everybody has managed to find time to watch the show.
I have a non-spoiler thing to say real quick.
What's that? I didn't hear you, Mark.
What?
I said, I can hear that tone in your voice, mister.
Hey, watch it, young man.
Get him, Mark.
Anyway, we're going to move on to our next topic at hand, and I would definitely love Emily to be a part of this, so we'll always save her for last, and hopefully she'll come in somewhere in the middle. We are going to be doing a little segment that actually used to be a major thing that happened on diehardgamefan.com, which, Mark, you are a part of. You are actually familiar with this, and you would do definitely a bunch of different franchises in regards that is called game franchises that you want to remake, reboot, give a sequel to, or kill off. And I have 5 franchises here that I would like to talk about and get your opinions on whether you think it should deserve a remake, whether it should get rebooted, get a sequel, or just kill the franchise in general. So, the first game on the franchise I want to talk about is Phantasy Star. Now, lately, we've been getting a lot of the online variations, Phantasy Star Online, and Online 2, Universe, Zero, all of these games that have been coming out for the Vita, for the PS2, Xbox 360, on the PC. These are games that, definitely are an offshoot from the original classic RPG franchise that came out on the Master System and on the Genesis. So the question is, and we're going to start with you, Mark, because I'm sure you're going to go to town. Remake, reboot, sequel, or kill it?
I am 90% certain that this was actually a thing that came up. Like, that this was a specific topic in the S4s as it relates to, like the stuff that we actually made, insofar as it goes. That is to say, I am, 90% certain that, I actually had an opinion about this way back in the day. That having been said, I cannot 100% remember what it was, so I kind of need to think about it a second.
Well, do you think your opinion may have changed over the years? Do you really have to match it with what you might have said years ago? Because I don't remember if you guys talked about Fantasy Star. I mean, you might have. I might have missed that article.
I honestly can't like that kind of a franchise that was that seminal to my existence. I need to think about it a minute.
Okay, so then we'll go to you, Nick, since you're pretty young to the Fantasy Star franchise.
Yeah, don't you like it?
Oh yeah, we both like it, me and Mark.
Yeah, but you like it, Hubs, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Then kill it.
And why would you like to kill it? Just because I like it?
Yeah, so you're just a little bit more miserable.
Oh, well, I'm been miserable, I guess, then since 1994, because that's when the last traditional Fantasy Star game came out.
Oh, that's a shame. But I guess on a serious note, so it's been that long?
The 1994 mark, or is it 1995? Since Fantasy Star 4.
94, I think.
I think it definitely came out before Final Fantasy 6.
And then
Or
online
Chrono
was
Trigger. One of the two.
The
online
original
was when?
release in the U.S. was 95. The online games were, I want to say, like 97 or 98. No, it was the first online Fantasy Star came out on the
2000.
Dreamcast.
2000, and I think
okay.
99, December 99 in Japan, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, you could do a reboot. You could do a reboot with that.
Now, if you were to reboot the franchise, did you want to make it more of a action RPG, like a lot of the RPGs have been leaning towards lately, or did you want to make it a traditional turn-based RPG?
Well, if you make it an action RPG, wouldn't it just be Mass Effect at that point?
Wouldn't it just be Fantasy Star Online at that point?
That's more leaning towards the MMO genre, sort of. But I mean, if you look at a game, let's say the Yeast franchise, which has always been we'll say kind of closer to almost a Zelda-esque type of thing, action adventure genre game, or do you want it to be just traditional turn-based / real-time combat? How would you like it rebooted? Enunciate.
This is me speaking, not knowing very much about it, but I will go with the turn-based RPG. That I think that would make it different enough from everything else that's out there. At least comparing it to stuff like Mass Effect or whatever BioWare's doing on that end, because they have more of they have more of a lock on the sci-fi stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Fantasy Star is sci-fi, right? I'm not getting this confused.
No, you're right. You're right.
I probably sound terrible right now, and people might not be a big fan of me right now, but
they're mocking you.
That's fine. So yeah, turn-based RPG in space. I would do that. I think that would make you stand out.
Okay. And how about you, Mark? Have you managed to get your thoughts together?
I feel like if they could make a game that was if we're talking in an ideal sense, they would make a game that was ideally exactly what we would want in some capacity or another, I would probably make the argument of give it a proper sequel. I don't think we need to reboot it because I feel like there's enough history to Phantasy Star as a franchise to where you could make a sequel off of Phantasy Star 4 and it would be a thing that, people could play and understand. You could even include the original 4 games on the disc with the new one so that those who wanted to experience those games for themselves could do so. I don't see any benefit in rebooting it. Frankly, I feel like there's more than enough lore that you can carry on with it and people would be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Phantasy Star is a Sega franchise, right?
Yes.
Okay, then with getting the old games in there, you could go to Yakuza route where you just make an arcade place to go to and all the games are just in there.
That's fair.
Okay. Now, okay, go on.
That having been said, given the Sega that we're dealing with and the games that they've made in their franchises in the past several years, kill it.
Yep. So a renewed Sega is not... You have no hope for a renewed Sega of making a decent Phantasy Star game?
No, absolutely not. And they have done nothing to indicate to me that I should. They took
probably
the most recent Valkyria Chronicles game, they made it into a shitty action spin-off, and when Japanese gamers, and when playtesters said, well, it's kind of a shitty action game, they gave it even shittier RPG elements. I don't know a single person who likes it, and that's what Sega thought we wanted out of a Valkyria franchise. I do not see Sega as making a good actual Phantasy Star game. I feel like they would just turn it into a shitty action game. And listen, I played Phantasy Star Universe. It wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't. Okay, Emily, welcome back.
Hi.
All right, so the question is now to you. For the Phantasy Stars franchise, would you like to remake, reboot, give it a sequel, or kill off the franchise? And we're talking about not go back to the original traditional Phantasy Star games, not the online variation spin-off. And why would you pick that choice?
I feel like this is a difficult one for me to answer because I've never played Phantasy Star. So I'm not. So I guess. Yeah, I don't think I've ever played Phantasy Star.
You want to take a couple minutes because I can actually provide my own answer for this.
Yeah, provide your answer
Okay,
while I think about it.
Because Emily and Nick apparently are two people who have never experienced the traditional or the traditional RPG elements of the original franchise. I would say giving the franchise a reboot would be a great idea. It would be a great way to reintroduce people into the franchise and its traditional RPG roots. Reintroduce them to the story, let them jump headfirst into the lore so they can re-experience, the stuff that we've experienced over 20-something years ago. I think it would definitely be a much better idea than, let's say, a sequel, which most people, even though the franchise is all connected to each other, they're not directly sequeled to one another, with the exception of maybe Phantasy Star 1 and 2. So it would definitely be a good idea to, kind of start fresh, reintroduce people to your franchise. That way they know that, there's some kind of they want to know where the entire Phantasy Star franchise came from, aside from, just the online universe and the universe games and the Zero games and the Vita games. So that's my opinion.
Can I follow up with a question to that?
Sure.
So if you were to reboot it, since you have experience with it, how would you want that reboot to look? Do you want it to be this big budget game with really great graphics and everything, or would you want to go a different route and have it be a smaller game that looks closer to the original games, like in the 16-bit style?
Well, they did something
almost kind of like a Mega Man
that.
910 thing.
Well, they kind of did something similar to that with the Phantasy Star 1 and 2 remake on the PS2, which were really nice, which were decent games. You could play the translation versions of those games on the internet. You can find them easily and play them on an emulator. But if anything, I would like to say they come out fresh, use modern technology, modern graphics. I would say definitely go with the old school gameplay elements, like try and do a turn-based combat system with some kind of modern twist to it that will keep it at least fresh and keep the younger audience sucked in for the time being. That way they can at least experience it, get to know the universe, get to know people like Alice and Odin and Meow and all them. So, Emily, have you managed to think it up?
I think because I've never checked out the game before, when I was younger, because I think that was on a Sega, older Sega system, right?
Genesis and Master System, yep.
Okay, so because I didn't have those systems and I've never played the game before, I wouldn't mind a reboot to check the game out. Because there's a lot of classic games that were popular when those systems came out that they don't have anymore on not even on Virtual Console, and I would love to so I'd say reboot.
All right, so there we go. So we have one person for kill it, two people for reboot, and Nick, what did you say? Sequel?
I said reboot.
Oh, so 3 for reboot. So that's an interesting. That
would make the most sense at this point, wouldn't it? Well,
for the franchise,
save for kill and reboot seem like the soundest options there.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering that the online franchise has definitely taken off, but Sega doesn't really seem to care about their American fan base anymore. So anyway, moving on to our next game. Now, the next franchise is Spyro the Dragon, and let's forget the fact that there is the Skylanders franchise, which is a spin-off of the Skylander franchise. There hasn't been a Spyro game in a number of years. In fact, they tried to do a a Spyro trilogy on their own back in like 2008, and that got canceled. So it's been about maybe 10 years, as a matter of fact, since the last Spyro game has released outside of Skylanders, which is, again, a spin-off. So we'll start off and see what people want. Nick, do you want the Spyro Dragon franchise to be remade, rebooted, get sequeled, or get killed off?
I guess this would fall under the umbrella of remakes. So 1, 2, and 3 remaster, same as the Insane trilogy for Crash. Actually, I feel like that would make the most sense for Activision. I wouldn't be surprised if Activision actually wanted to do that at this point.
No, they
Yeah,
did. Like I said,
Crash-
they did attempt
Crash
to do that
is-
back in 2008, but it was canceled. But yeah, do you think they will consider doing it again?
Considering Crash is selling really well right now, I would not be surprised if Activision is already looking into it. And I'm not sure if they could do the same thing where they go to Insomniac and get the original level geometry for those games. But yeah, I feel like at this point, especially since the nostalgia for that era for those type of games is pretty strong right now, I'd say do that.
Okay.
Or you could take Enter the Dragonfly and make it not complete trash.
So remake one of the games in the franchise. But for you, it'll
Remake
definitely...
one of the games, and if it's Enter the Dragonfly, make it actually work.
All right, so we have one for remake. Emily, how about you?
I would want it to be remastered like Crash Bandicoot, which they actually rumors. There's apparently a secret Easter egg in the Crash, but I haven't found it. But in the Crash Bandicoot end trilogy, and so there's been a lot of rumors that they're planning on doing a remaster of that as well. Is my camera freezing for you guys?
Nope, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, it's freezing on my screen for some reason, but okay. So, because of those rumors that I've been reading about, and because I loved the game when I was younger, I'm gonna have to say I want to see it the same as Crash Bandicoot.
So wait, you said
Put them all into a remaster.
You said there's an Easter egg in Crash right now?
I haven't found it, but yeah, there's a
Wait, I'm looking it
supposed
up.
there's a supposed Easter egg in the Crash Bandicoot end trilogy that points to that has sparked rumors because it's Spyro related that they're going to
So your vote is
Plan
for
to
remake
remaster.
then, Emily?
remaster, but I guess if that falls under remake, yeah, I would.
Okay. And
It seems to be the popular trend lately to remaster old classic games, which I'm totally not against as long as it's the right game. And while I wasn't a huge Spyro fan, I feel like I would still like to see it happen. At least happen while it's popular to remaster them.
okay. And how about you, Mark? How do you feel about the Spyro franchise?
I 100% do not give a shit about the Spyro franchise. I'm sorry.
All right then.
I think we know the obvious answer here.
I knew that was going to happen. I just had a feeling that Mark was going to be like, yeah, I don't care.
So
I'm
Mark,
sorry. It's not a thing for me.
so then that is a definite kill it.
I mean, honestly, if people like it and there's room for it, I'll default to the majority opinion on it. Do whatever you want with it. I legitimately don't care. Sorry.
Okay. So that's the opinion there. So we have one up in the air and 3 people for remake it, right? Because I'm definitely going to lean towards a remake as well, because if Crash is as successful as it is now, and even though they canceled an attempted HD remake trilogy back in 2008, why not do it now with the more invested interest, especially when you do have a lot more games, especially what was it that they announced at E3? The Shadow of the Colossus HD remaster to be coming out as well. They can, why not? It doesn't hurt to try it again, see if you can bring back the franchise to its roots as opposed to constantly pushing out more and more of the goddamn Skylander shit. So now we're going to move on to another one. This one is another Sega franchise, and that is the Panzer Dragoon franchise. I don't know if anybody here has really experienced it at all, so we will start with you, Nick. How about you? Are you familiar with the Panzer Dragoon franchise, first off?
A little bit, yeah.
Have you played any of them ever?
Yeah, I played one of them, and it's years ago. I was still a kid, so
All right, so then
I have picked up a controller and pressed buttons to make stuff happen in the game. So
Okay, so I'm sure there's some people who aren't familiar with the Panzer Dragoon Saga. It is an on-rail shooter that debuted back on the Sega Saturn. They had about 4 games in the entire franchise, 3 of which were on-rail shooters. The third one was an actual kind of an open world-ish RPG game that was actually heralded really well, and it's also become one of the hottest collector's items out there in the gaming collector scene. The last game was released on the Xbox, original Xbox, Panzer Dragoon Orta, which was a really beautiful game, especially one of the first few games on the Xbox console to support 720p, or was it 480p? I forget. But
I think it had to be 480 at the time.
yeah, but since then we have not heard anything in regards from Sega in regards to the franchise itself. So for you, Nick, would you like to have them remake it, reboot it, sequel, or kill the franchise off, or leave it dead?
The Xbox One was the last one, right?
The original Xbox.
Yeah.
There was
okay.
a spiritual successor in Crimson Wing or whatever it was that came out on
But
the
that
Xbox
was
One.
that was an Xbox.
Xbox
it
One
came out-
exclusive, yeah. I think it was Crimson something. It was a spiritual successor from a different company.
Yeah. So if we're this far out, that would be another reboot for me.
Another reboot for you, since you
Yeah.
didn't have a chance to experience it a long time ago.
Well, it's that, and it's just the thought process that you're so far out at this point that it would just make more sense to start over and have more creative freedom that way if you choose to make more games after that than to keep going with whatever you have, especially if the same people who worked on it probably aren't there anymore.
Okay, yeah, it's been about, 10
And
years,
that-
at least 10, 12 years since the last game came out,
That-
too.
that's the same thing for Phantasy Star too. It would probably make the most sense to just reboot it than to keep going with what you have.
And how about you, Mark? What is your choice and why?
I would kill it, honestly, but more so from a case of I just don't think there's a market for it at this point. Like, the 3 Panzer Dragoon games that came out on the Saturn came out on a platform that generally was all about Sega games. You were buying that because you were buying a platform for Sega games. Panzer Dragoon Orta did not inspire any sequels, so it's clear that as a franchise outside of Sega's particular protective womb, it didn't really have a lot of legs. I don't see any benefit in attempting to make any more games in that franchise unless Sega were to release the original games on like Xbox Live Arcade or something like that and see an upswell in support. And frankly, I just don't think that Panzer Dragoon as a franchise has the kind of legs to get that going. But further to the point, and the bigger problem I think here is that like we've seen that game done 3 different times now in Rez, Child of Eden, and Crimson Dragon, and nobody bought those games either. Like, I love
Except Rez has been re-released at least twice now.
yeah,
3 times.
Still nobody fucking bought it. Like, the original Rez on the PlayStation 2 was a $50 to $60 collector's item for a number of years because nobody owned it. It's great that Sega re-released that on like the download services for like $10 or whatever. And then they released it again in VR. Maybe people bought the VR version of it, and maybe the Panzer Dragoon games could see a second life in VR, and that as a result. By and large, just that particular genre of shooter is not especially popular. Like, outside of the 2 different re-releases of Rez, anything that didn't appear on a Sega console never saw a sequel.
So tough times for Sega all around because they just don't have the market for some of their older games then. Is that going to be difficult for them going forward if they want to resurrect franchises, you think?
No, I feel like, honestly, the smartest thing that Sega could do is just take stuff that's already translated and put it out on Xbox Live Arcade or on PSN and see if they can get an upswell of support and stuff. I mean, Yakuza didn't become a major franchise for them overnight. There was a point back in Yakuza 3 where they massively had to pare it down. Remember, the first game came with all the bells and whistles, American voice acting, the whole bit. Nobody bought it. But they brought out the sequel, they cut down on the expense, nobody bought it. So they eventually brought out the third game after a lot of pressure and cut out a lot of the content instead of trying to make it a uniquely Japanese experience. Nobody bought it. But then by the time we get to the fourth game, fifth game, so on and so forth, more and more people are catching on to what Yakuza is, and it's becoming a franchise that sells. If Sega were to release Panzer Dragoon on a download platform and it were to see a swell of support, maybe they could do something with it. But as it stands right now, just working as it is, the Panzer Dragoon name doesn't have enough name recognition value on its own to be worthwhile, and that particular type of game is not something that people were chomping at the bit to play. Unless Sega did a lot of image rehabilitation on it, I would just kill it.
All right. And how about you, Emily? What are your thoughts on the Panzer Dragoons franchise?
I guess I'm like Mark when it came to Spyro, and even though I never played it, I'm not really sure I want to. I'm not really sure it's a game that would do well in the market right now. I'm not sure I would touch it at the moment.
Okay. Well, in regards to my opinion, I think this is a franchise that I think should at least get a sequel, in the vein that it should just test the waters, and it should be like a sequel that is released on, like, you know, a platform like Xbox Live Arcade or PSN or GOG and Steam, just to see if there's even interest in such a game. I mean, they don't even have to go all out when it comes to making a new game in the franchise, just to see if, you know, there's maybe people who would be interested in it. I think that definitely, if the fact that Rez has been re-released many times, I definitely believe that there are people out there that are buying this franchise, that Sega has noticed that, and it is a popular niche game. So I think, if anything, a sequel might show that the franchise could definitely be in niche status that will allow them to continue the franchise, or just kill it after one more attempt with it, in my personal opinion. So
how would a sequel test the waters?
like, I mean, let's put it this way: the last game came out in about 2005 from Sega, so it's definitely a game that is more recent than the other games in the previous games that I have mentioned already, like Spyro the Dragon franchise and Phantasy Star, because I think the last Spyro came out like about the same time as Panzer Dragoon, actually, but at that point it was just an Activision cash cow, and they were just throwing shit out as fast as possible until Skylanders came out.
I know, but what I'm saying is you're classifying this as a niche game, with the last game having came out 12 years ago. So if you come right out with a sequel to a game that happened 12 years ago, like, if you're looking for more people to play, you're going to have a huge problem there.
Well, it's not going to be that big of a problem, because remember, it was only an Xbox exclusive. So if you release it now on PSN, Xbox Live, and on Steam, you're definitely going to already have a greater audience by which it could be definitely more well received.
Oh, so you want this released as a small game then?
Yeah, like I said, test the waters, make it a small game. You don't have to throw all the bells and whistles on there. So
All right.
definitely, like, just keep it simple, stupid. You know, kiss. So now we're going to talk about a couple of other games now. A couple more games left to talk about. This one is probably never going to be revived, but just for shits and giggles, we might as well bring it up. That is the Mech Assault franchise that came out on the original Xbox. The first one was a fun, dumb, simple mech arcade game that was just really fun online. The sequel wasn't as fun because they added the whole jacking of mech element with the spacesuits and all that, or the rocket suits and all that, to go back and forth. Now, I'll start with you, Emily. Are you familiar? You remember the Mech Assault franchise, right?
I did not have an Xbox, so
Man, we're really doing great here. So
I didn't have an Xbox. I'm sorry. I've never been an Xbox fan. If you named a game on a Nintendo or PlayStation, maybe.
Okay, well, let's pretend that maybe Mech Assault might be released on PC as well. So, what do you think about this franchise? It was popular. It was one of the titular titles that launched with Xbox Live when it first came out. Do you feel this is a franchise that should be possibly remade, rebooted, have a sequel, or just keep it dead?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
What's the name of the game? I've never heard of it.
Mech Assault. It was one of the prime reasons to own an Xbox to get Xbox Live back in the day when Xbox Live first came out.
Man, maybe you should have given the games in advance. For me, what's the game about again?
It's
Can you tell me what it's about?
It's an arcade mech action game where you're a bunch of teams with people doing deathmatch, King of the Hill, or Capture the Flag type of games with mechs, but not like complicated like Mech Warrior, if you remember that franchise. Think Quake, but slower with robots.
Yeah, maybe I might be interested. Possibly. Maybe like if it came out on like a virtual console, like the virtual console stuff that they have, not on Xbox, but in a different virtual console, like Nintendo Virtual Console or something, which I doubt will happen. But if it did,
It is a Microsoft franchise, so you're best seeing it maybe on Steam or
maybe yeah, like maybe if it came on Steam for like cheap or there was a demo, I might check it out, possibly.
so make that as a possible remake.
Possible.
Okay.
I'd have to look more into it, but possibly.
All right. Well, let's now go to Mark. Mark, how do you feel about the Mech Assault franchise?
I mean, it's fine. I'd be fine with seeing a sequel on it in a broad sense, but again, like I feel like if there were money to be made there, they would have already done it.
Mm-hmm.
Is my major concern. That said, I feel like there's definitely a place for mech combat, especially with online gaming becoming more and more of a thing. Like at the time Mech Assault was initially a thing, the online gaming was really in its infancy. I would say you could probably either do a reboot or a sequel and do fine. I would say reboot just because I doubt, like, unless they put the original up on Xbox Live Arcade, and with the fact that they're starting to make all of the original Xbox games backwards compatible on Xbox One, that isn't that far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a reboot would probably be a better choice, just because you should probably not assume people are familiar with the initial game. But if you can get the original up on Xbox Live Arcade and it does well, then fuck it, do a sequel, whatever.
All right, and
I would say reboot.
Okay, so we'll go one reboot and we'll go one remake from Emily. And then now we come down to Nick. How about you, buddy?
I'll say kill on this one. Then again, can't really kill what's already dead, but yeah, I'm not all that familiar with it, but at this point, I mean, if Microsoft hasn't brought it back, I don't think they will.
But then again, they did re-release Phantom Dust, which is which is an incredibly obscure game.
Alternatively, with that, you could go to Microsoft's route of killing Mech Assault with Phantom Dust, where they announce a reboot or just a completely new Phantom Dust game, and then go, oh, actually, wait, no, it's not happening. You don't always do that.
Okay, so it's a kill for you. I will be in the same boat as Mark, as I feel a reboot or a sequel would be probably one of the best things to do for franchises, especially with the announcement of original Xbox games being backwards compatible on the Xbox One. People might be more inclined to start picking up the classics again, and who knows, maybe they might even rework the servers so you can be able to play online with the original Xbox games. I mean, they killed off those servers so they can improve the Xbox 360 servers for their games as well. Moving on, we'll go to the final game of the night, and this one is actually more recent. There was a game that came out about a few years ago, and it wasn't well received, and that franchise is Ninja Gaiden. The last game, Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge, was not
I played
universally
that game.
well received. It was maybe got above average at best scores. It had a bunch of remakes or re-releases with additional content for the first two games once Itagaki was a part of the team or left the team, and they made the re-releases for the goddamn PS3. Goddamn, why was I not able to word that shit? So we'll start off with Nikki, where'd you go? Nick, your camera disappeared. I feel like I should put the Apple logo right there for that it froze on him.
Disappeared.
Yep. Anyway, so well, I guess we'll have to start. We'll start with you, Emily. What do you think they should do with the Ninja Gaiden franchise at this point? I think the last one that came out was what, 2010. The Razor's Edge, and I believe they're either giving. Oh no, it came out probably 2012. It wasn't that long ago, and I think they're giving the franchise a break, as a matter of fact, if I recall, or they're probably not going to revisit it for a while. So,
sorry, that position I was in was super uncomfortable. I would say.
All right, well, that happened.
what
What?
happened? Oh, he's back. No, you're.
I don't know. I don't see
Sort
the
of.
camera, so I don't know if he is back or not.
I can hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Yeah,
Ninja-
I'll just continue to be a spinning circle. It's cool.
I am not ready for Ninja Gaiden to go away. So I would say I would like them to see them do a sequel, but see them do it the right way. Oh my god, no. My computer is saying that it's... Oh my god, it's seriously forcing me to update and restart right now?
You can
What
cancel that.
No, this one isn't giving me... Hold on. I don't think it's giving me the option.
Here's hey, look, there's a picture of me from months ago.
Pick a time. I'm picking a time.
Now
Alright.
it's...
It's giving me the option of picking a time.
Oh yeah, I look phenomenal in that picture.
You are phenomenal, sir.
Pick a time. We'll do Saturday.
So what was your choice, real quick, Emily?
She'd like to see a sequel.
She wants to do a sequel.
I would say that I would like to... I fixed it. I would say that I would like to see a sequel, but I want to see them do it like the right way. Like, I obviously don't want them to do a sequel if it's just going to be half-assed and not good. But I would like to see a good Ninja Gaiden sequel.
All right. And how about you, Nick? What do you think about the Ninja Gaiden franchise?
Let's do a sequel and wait for all the comparisons to Dark Souls.
Fair.
That is fair. And how about you, Mark?
Kill it.
Oh my god.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Now, hold on. Here's the thing. Team Ninja is a good developing house. I don't really think that's in dispute in general. Here's the thing. I don't like Tomonobu Itagaki for a lot of reasons, if I'm being honest.
But he's not there anymore.
That I'm getting to it. What is it with you people and fucking cutting me off? I have a point I'm making. God damn it.
I'm sorry.
I just said
Would you
wow.
fucking talk back to your elders?
Damn.
Whoa.
Son, let me tell you a few things. First, I don't think it's in dispute that Team Ninja is a good development house. It's fine, Nick. I love you. I'm just kidding. I don't think it's in dispute that Team Ninja is a good development house in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no love for Tomonobu Itagaki as an existent being in this world. But that having been said, of all the franchises that Team Ninja has touched in the past several years, the only one they have not been able to get right since he left was Ninja Gaiden. Period. Dead or Alive, they eventually got to a point where it's a fighting game that people are, happy to be associated with, happy to play, happy to enjoy, without his involvement. The new games that Team Ninja has had their hand in, Metroid Other M was mechanically sound, and everything that was bad about that game was Nintendo's fault. Let's be clear. Nioh is basically a testament to what Team Ninja can do when they're firing on all cylinders. But did we lose Nick again?
I think we have full-fledged lost him. He's like out, like...
His Skype is not behaving.
It's fine. We'll get him back in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. At the end of the day, whether or not I like those games, there has not been a good Ninja Gaiden since 2, and I would argue there has not been a great Ninja Gaiden since 1. The first Ninja Gaiden and the Ninja Gaiden Black update were really interesting, well put together, well executed pieces of work. Ninja Gaiden 2, I felt, was way too reliant on bullet spamming enemies, and the fact that Itagaki then turned around and made Devil's Turd, which was all about bullet spamming enemies, I think kind of indicated that the franchise as a whole got away from him.
Welcome back, Nick.
All right, well, that was annoying.
Like, I don't feel like Itagaki being associated with it would have necessarily guaranteed a quality sequel. But the original Ninja Gaiden 3, I think we can all collectively agree was not very good.
No.
The remake,
Yeah.
I was not especially impressed with either. A lot of people felt that it was an improvement, and it was, but I don't feel like it captured what Ninja Gaiden was supposed to be. And then there was Yaiba, which was not developed by Team Ninja, but indirectly was associated with them, and was the drizzling shits.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I think
And
everyone
then
forgot
that's not
about
even-
that.
I don't know. Like, okay, so even though I realize that Ninja Gaiden is not like obviously like the best game in the world, but I don't know. I liked it. I had fun with it. Like,
I love the original Ninja Gaiden. I think
like
it's a
I
great-
was aware of the fact that it wasn't the best or the perfect game in the world. I don't know. I just thought it was fun regardless of that. Like, there's some
And I
games
do-
that even
No, that's
Sorry.
fine. It's I like the original Ninja Gaiden a lot. I think it's a very great piece of work, and I legit beat that game. Not Black, the original.
right.
But every game that they've made has been progressively uninteresting. Look at the sequels that were made for the Vita, or not the sequels, but the remakes that were made for the Vita. Like, reviews were generally fine, but it has since been largely accepted that these were not especially good.
Well, right. Well,
Like-
that's why I said I would like to see them do a sequel, but the right way, since
Is the problem
all
is,
the ways haven't
they
really
don't
been
know
that
how to
good.
do- I don't think they know how to do it the right way anymore. And I don't know if there's a way for them to fix that franchise at this point. Because without Itagaki, you're kind of getting what, Ninja Gaiden 3 and its update were, which is not exactly what we wanted. And that's 2 games that they had to get that right, and in 2 games they couldn't do it. And with Itagaki, I don't think it'd help because, again, Devil's Third. I don't think there is a way to make another Ninja Gaiden the way that we wanted it. The best thing I
Yeah.
could say is maybe you could make an updated 2D platformer like Ninja Gaiden 4 or whatever, but I think that was lightning in a bottle, and I don't think that company can do anything else with that. And you know what, honestly, that's fine. Like I said, Dead or Alive is no longer my cup of tea for a variety of reasons, but it's still a fighting game
Really?
franchise.
You don't like Dead or Alive?
I liked Dead or Alive up until 4. No,
No.
wait, hold on. 3 was the one that came out on Xbox, the original, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I liked Dead or Alive until 4.
A lot of people, especially in the DOA community, were turned off by 4 because they were trying to make it. Itagaki was just not
Yeah, but
happy
isn't
with
5
how
but
he had
5
the game
but
originally.
5 seems pretty popular. 5 seems a lot better than 4 was, though.
The parry mechanic ultimately passed me by as a thing that I cared about. I appreciate
Okay.
its novelty within the world of mechanics, and the major problems that I've always had with DOA as a franchise are I don't like the heavy focus on air juggling. I never could really get into the parry system as a mechanic. I feel like there are better ways of doing what they did. Like Street Fighter Third Strike, I think, does a better job of that than the parry mechanic does. Because the parry
Well,
mechanic
DOA
is very
doesn't
much...
have a parry mechanic unless, of course, it's specific characters. It has a hold system, which is a little bit different.
Press back in the button and you parry the move. That's
Not
been in the
not
games
every
for-
move. I mean, Dead or Alive 3 may have had a simplified hold system, but if you look at something like Dead or Alive 2 before it was released on the Dreamcast, it had a more... And Dead or Alive 1, as a matter of fact. Dead or Alive 1 had a 6-point hold system.
Right, and the thing is, I feel like making it overly complicated kind of puts it in the position where it's very much a rock paper scissors kind of deal, where it almost kind of removes the utility unless you are a frame counter.
Mhm.
And like for me personally, I don't like mechanics that are that reliant on frame counting. Like I feel like that's a point where no amount of practicing you're going to do is going to get you good enough to be competitive if your eyes don't do that. And so for me, it's the parrying system as they utilize it, as they implemented it, kind of passed me by. And honestly, the modern games, the characters look too uncanny valley for me. I really don't like the aesthetics of the modern games. It's a personal opinion. I'm glad that people enjoy the franchise, but for me, it's a franchise that has kind of come and gone as far as like what it was trying to do. The last game I played was DOA Dimensions, and I thought it was fine. No, I'm sorry. I played 5, like I rented it, and it just didn't hold my interest. Like Tekken is my jam. Tekken is going to be my jam probably forever. Virtua Fighter is pretty good. Soul Calibur, if I walk away from it for a year, I can't stand it, but I'll always give it a shot when a new one comes in. But DOA, no, it's just beyond me at this point. Like, from a mechanical perspective, I also really hate. I still have fucking nightmares about fucking Kasumi Alpha. I fucking hated that goddamn boss, and it really soured.
Getting back on topic though.
Right. It's at the end of the day, I feel like the original Ninja Gaiden was lightning in a bottle. I don't think you can do it again, because as we've seen, like I said, the team has not really made a game that matches it, and I don't think there is a way for them to make that again unless they turn around and just remake the first one, and I don't think that's necessarily what anybody wants either. I would recommend.
I don't know. I don't know. As much as I would like a sequel, I wouldn't mind a remastered version either if they did it the right way.
I guess I could see.
I guess I keep saying, but see, like, I feel like that might work for you though, since you like the new one and they don't seem to be, not the new one. I'm sorry. You like the original, the first one, and they don't seem to be doing well with the sequels, which I can agree with.
The big problem
as well.
I have is that the Vita remasters didn't hold up particularly well. So it's kind of a case of,
the Vita didn't really hold up. Like, there's a reason why you don't see PlayStation.
The Sigma games in general didn't hold up especially well.
Okay, because I was gonna say there's a reason why I feel like you don't see.
It's okay, Nick.
Vita.
Poor Nick wants to share his opinion.
I love
badly.
the Vita so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, Sony has really abandoned the Vita, which is a shame. But that's.
But see, the thing is, I feel like Sony gave up though, because.
Yeah, that's. I honestly don't want to get any more off topic.
Essentially, what happened.
I don't want to get any more off topic.
Emily,
you already have.
Emily.
I'm not getting off. I'm not.
You're talking about the Vita now. Let's. Poor Nick here has an opinion that we have been holding off on.
I have one sentence. I haven't talked most of the show.
Let her get her sentence in. Let her get her sentence in.
All right, get your sentence in.
That's the first for me. Just let me get my one sentence out. I just feel like they didn't do as well in the handhelds as they would like to have done in the handhelds, so they switched and put all their focus in the VR, which they are successfully doing because the VR is very good. I can attest for that because I have it. Just like Nintendo has not particularly done very well with I want to say they haven't done particularly well with their consoles, but the Wii was actually pretty popular and pretty successful. But they did not do well with the Wii U, and they found a way around that with the Switch, which now you can take wherever you go, and I've seen it vice versa, both different ways. That's it. That was more than one sentence, but I'm done.
All right, so Mark is going to go with the Mercy killing. Is that your vote?
Yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, even from a remake perspective, I played Sigma. I wasn't impressed with it. At the end of the day, I'm going to say let it go.
All right, and Nick? Oh.
Sequel.
Sequel?
Like I said, make a sequel, make it really hard, just wait for the inevitable comparisons to Dark Souls.
See? Me and Nick agree on something.
All right, and I'm going to go with kill it. Probably here's the thing.
It's just me and you, Nick.
I agree with Mark in a lot of ways because I feel like the franchise is just once Itagaki released Ninja Gaiden 2 Black on the Xbox 360, the game just did not feel like it was trying to surpass the original in every way. It was like it was trying to do just all kinds of like it was just trying to do everything to more of an extreme as opposed to improving on what the original game did on the original Xbox. And then once he left, and then 3 and the Sigma games came out, and then Razor's Edge came out, you could just definitely tell that they didn't really have a direction to go with the game. They didn't exactly see eye to eye, I guess, in the development house and how they should make the Ninja Gaiden games work. I mean, let's be honest here, when the Sigma games came out, how did they promote it? They released a commercial with a guy holding a controller, moving it up and down, and what do? They show Ayane's boobs jiggling when you're moving the controller around. That is how they promoted the franchise. That apparently is what the franchise means to Team Ninja.
It did?
Yeah, I'm really. I don't.
You don't remember that?
It's
This was back when Ninja Gaiden. It was either Sigma 1 or Sigma 2 came out, and they had a commercial where the guys were holding the controller up and down. They were bobbing their heads up and down with it as they were watching either Rachel or Ayane in-game model or Momoji. One of those three ladies that was playable jiggle the boobs around. So
I'm seeing relatively normal commercials on YouTube right now.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
for you later.
there's just one of Ryu just standing there being a cool guy. So yeah, he jumped off a building. So he's doing ninja stuff.
All right, here we go. I got the commercial right here for you guys.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there it is. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they obviously didn't know what they were doing anymore, and that's why they reverted to shit like that. So, in my opinion, it's not so much a mercy killing, it's just like, let's just kill off the franchise and maybe consider a resurrection somewhere down the line after, I mean, they hit magic with in a bottle with, or lightning in a bottle with Neo. So, I mean, you could probably expand on that franchise right there. What do you think, Mark? They think they should expand more on Neo, make a couple sequels?
On which game now?
Neo.
Neo what?
Neo.
Oh, Nio?
Nio.
Yeah.
That's how it's pronounced for you? Okay.
I was like, I don't know how they pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it.
Okay.
No, absolutely they should. Assuming that it made them money, obviously. I don't know what its overall sales metrics were. I'm assuming they were good because the reviews were really good for it and there was a lot of hype behind it. I feel like I don't think they should make a lot of sequels around it because if anything, I feel like that was one very good lesson Itagaki brought to the team. Know when to fucking kill a franchise and move on with your day. Itagaki was done with Ninja Gaiden 2. He was done with DOA at 4 because he didn't see a place to go with it. Now, DOA recovered, Ninja Gaiden did not. I think that giving it a couple of years and then putting in a proper sequel that has a strong vision and builds upon the frameworks and everything would be a great idea. I do not think they should beat that into the ground, but I do legitimately feel like that's a thing where they can make some money.
All right. Well, we're practically at the end of the show right now. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Thank you, Nick, for once again subbing. Keith should return probably in 2 weeks.
And I want to thank everybody for their patience because that's not going to be a regular thing. I'm not going to do that again. I mean, not that I don't want to compete, but I'm not going to try to do both again. It just didn't work for me.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to compete. I mean, I've had the National Arena League Championship game on the other TV, watching that back and forth while you guys were talking. So
I don't know. I was trying. I don't know if I'm gonna do that again though. So.
Okay. So.
But thank you for your patience, of course.
All right. So how about some shout outs or plugs from everybody? How about you, Nick?
You can follow me on Twitter at It's Nick. 2 S's. It's kind of spelled wrong below me right now, but yeah.
Way to go, Rob.
I'm sorry. Nobody's perfect.
If you want to put up with me talking about games and hockey and a bunch of other nonsense, then go right ahead.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with
and can they if I can throw one more franchise into the fold, can they just please make Mega Man Legends 3? Like, just revive it and just do that one for me, and I'm sure like a bunch of other people. I know it didn't sell well. Just do it, please.
All right, how about you,
then
Emily?
Capcom can just go nuts.
All right, Emily, how about you? You want to plug anything?
Summer Jam. That is coming up really, really soon in not September. Oh my God. What is wrong with me? August is with the second weekend in August. And pre-registration is ending soon. It's going to go up again. I think 5 days it's going to go up from $50 to $55, and then you got about another 2 weeks left, and that is it for registration. Actually, I believe it ends on the 21st of July, I believe. So I would really pre-register for Summer Jam. I'm going to be pushing it out again tomorrow and posting the link, but you just is an event you don't want to miss, as it is a part of the Capcom Pro Tour. It is a part of the Injustice 2 Pro Series with the $20,000 pop bonus. It is a part of the Dead or Alive Battle 5 Battle Royale series. It is a part of the Tekken Pro Tour as well. It is a part of every Pro Tour that you could possibly imagine, and it's going to be awesome. Like I said, we're in a new venue at the Crown Royal Plaza in Cherry Hill / Philly. It's about 15 minutes from the airport, 15 minutes from the Philadelphia airport. And just, I guess, follow me on Twitter if you want. I have some stuff in the works that I'm working on, but it has not officially launched yet because I've been too busy. But yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And Mark, how about you? Anything to plug?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter, which is listed down below, twitter.com/MarkBWriting. You can also follow me over on Facebook, facebook.com/MarkBWritingHome. And we have actually updated the Neo Kobe Pizza podcast, which is available on soundcloud.com/MarkBWriting, as well as any other places where you can find podcasts, whether it be Google Music, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever. This particular podcast that has been updated most recently is part one of a discussion on Persona 5 with the regular guest, Mr. Aaron Sorois. So, give it a listen.
All right.
Are you doing your podcast again?
Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
All right. And as for me, we are going to continue with original versus remake month. This Wednesday, we are going to be playing Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. I will be playing the original Sega Genesis version. My wife will be playing the Xbox 360 remake of the game. So this should be quite a lot of fun. Other games we'll be playing for the originals versus remakes will include the Space Quest EGA and SVGA versions. And we will end it off at the end with Mr. Mark B. Writing here playing Tomb Raider Anniversary, and I'll be playing the original Tomb Raider game. And I would have to say that'll be a great way to end that month in Game Jam with a bang. Coming up, we also have on Thursdays, 3 Vets and a New, which is a 2-hour Phantasy Star Online stream that I do with an entourage of my friends. It's just 2 hours of camaraderie and insults, so just definitely tune in if you just want to laugh at something. And bi-weekly, on Mondays, opposite GVN Live, I will have the next Dead or Alive 5 bi-weekly tournament coming up on July 17th, which will be next week. So tune in for that, most definitely. The sign-ups for that is on the Challenge website. You can find links for that in the competitive Dead or Alive group that I am currently in, as well as Free Step Dodge, where I have a link posted. So definitely keep an eye out for that. So from all of us here at GVN Live, I want to wish everybody a wonderful night. Peace, everybody.
Bye.